she has some few things coming up, so she's not here. So yesterday, what we saw, are you able to see right the screen? So we talked about project versus program versus portfolio, project constraints, and little bit of project scope. What is the scope and what we will going to do. So today we will going to talk about project team composition and stakeholders management. Two topics we will going to talk about it. So project team composition. So project team composition is what it's supposed to be look like a team in a project. Whenever they will going to start a new team, they means the program manager or the program associates who will going to decide let's start a project. So we can see somewhat kind of this example, this much of team member and this much amount of member or with the responsibilities within a team of any project. So most of the time all the projects are related to the computer engineering and computer team development. The chances are your team will going to include following role in a member like first is project sponsor, project manager, business analyst, software development team. Inside the software development team, there is a software architect, designer, software developer. Deployment include uh, the DevOps team and all. And the fifth one is quality assurance. Let's go one by one. The project sponsor is the people with the money. The project request as a sponsor person who initiate the project. He has a time, money, and resources. So he is the most of the person, probably uh, from the program who will going to decide that let's do this project, and that person or that team would be sponsorer for some particular project for the investment part, which has some sort of time, money, and all the resources. Resources mean on the upper level of the resources, or manager level of the resources, because they will going to hire if the resources is not available. Responsible to overall project delivery. So they are the people who are also responsible for the project delivery as well. So they are the owner of the project. They have the ownership of the project. So the second one is the project manager. So project manager has a responsibility of planning. So how they will going to achieve some certain criteria, whatever the project sponsor has decided, that is up to the project manager how he will going to or she will going to plan execution plan, how they will going to close the project, also how they will going to deploy the project in wherever they are going to decide to deploy. you know Most of the time nowadays it would be in cloud services, probably in AWS, GCP, Azure, or some other small cloud platform. The third one is business analyst, that is you. The IT business analyst act as a liaison between technology staff and business management. So it is a bridge between the software engineering team and the business people. The fourth one is the software development team, which include software architect. So as the name stated, architect is a person who is responsible to design the software product in a way that it can handle all sorts kind of scenarios related to software development. and the application will not going to fail or lag or any kind of performance issue associated with that. So he's a person who understand the entire software development life cycle inside the out of particular that project and all sets of technology associated with the project. It is a very complex job. It requires, you cannot see a software architect who has probably freshly graduated from the university, or who has probably less than 5 years of experience. He or she is a person who has probably more than 10 years of experience, so who has achieved that entire uh, experience throughout his career, his or her career, and build the the wisdom of the software engineering development. Designer who is a creative person, product look like, feel like, all those kind of things. So you relate most of the time with front end development, UI UX designer. So how the project is look like, what kind of column, what kind of text box, what kind of buttons we need, what kind of input data we will going to provide, those kind of stuff. The designer looks good, thinks. Software developer is the person who will going to write logical explanation for the software, which will going to do any kind of arithmetical operation associated with the project, any kind of logical expression associated with the project. So basically associated with the logic, what operation it will going to do, how it will going to perform. There are some back end jobs user cannot see. There are some certain lot of things between happening between lot of small components, communication and everything, validation as well. And the deployment people is most of the time DevOps people. They will going to, once the software is ready for the production, they will going to deploy in any cloud services or personal space they have on the server side, what whatever they have used based on the project. But most of the time nowadays is cloud services configuration, so it will going to flawlessly working with all the project files inside of any cloud cluster. So building a pipeline for that, CI/CD pipeline, it's called continuous integration and continuous development. So it will going to work flawlessly. So the fifth one is the quality assurance. So QA. So mhm, mhm, mhm. So related to some specific project, if project is not that big, a huge chunk, uh, you know, suppose let's stick with the example of Tesla, right? They have developed a software for their car operating system, right? Tesla dashboard has the very beautiful interface. You can control all the things associated with that. So once it get, it is running somewhere in some servers, and throughout that servers, that car is one module is communicating through some servers, and whatever the information is exchanging, logs and everything, they will, car will go to post, it server will going to receive, and request and response sequence will going to appear. So so this is a simple thing. Whenever their new software they will going to release, they will going to push to the cars. So whenever it happens, there is a person or a team associated with DevOps. Some particular small project have a single person, but they have company have a DevOps team. So they will going to assign a single person who is working as a DevOps for that particular project. So he or she is a person who is responsible to build a pipeline, automation, a deployment pipeline. So that person is particularly work for the deployment process. But if the project is a little bit broader, it requires a lot of automation. They want to go with some kind of terraforming, some kind of building a pipeline with some Jenkins and something, write some Ansible playbooks, and manage all the cluster with Kubernetes and or something. And there are lots of Dockers associated with that. There might be possibility there has to be more than one person for the DevOps role if they have to monitor and deployment process standardize and monitor active monitoring is required for the project as well. Yes, DevOps engineer. A lot of team has developer slash DevOps. So one person who is working, probably three developers, and one person is also working on development, and also he is working on DevOps as well. So there would be no crystal clear definition for a dedicated person, but sometimes there are multiple jobs done by a single person. You can see full stack engineers as well. So designer and developer both are same. So that person is doing front end job as well as the back end job as well. That can be possible. You can see a lot of time, a lot of QA slash developer as well. So developer will going to work as a QA as well. It is not ideal, but some team has a budget constraint, and they consider that let's save some money. So did I give your questions answer? So QA people is a inspect, kind of an inspector which will going to do some manual testing. Sometime automation testing is also needed, and uh, he or she is a person or a team will going to develop it to ensure the desired level of quality based on the project team, whatever the benchmark the project sponsorer or project manager have established. Based on that, QA people has to cope up with some testing scenarios so they can test in whatever the certain benchmarks set for developers a particular project. So that is his or her responsibility to take care. Do you have any question? So before we move forward, let me give you one typical team or small or medium size of project team. You can note it down if you want to. One project manager, one or two BA people, one architect, two to three developers, two QA testers, one scheduler or coordinator, or we can say scheduler or coordinator as a scrum master. One project manager, one or two BA people. So in two BA people, there would be a lead BA who is a part of a program, and another person is a senior BA or BA person who is dedicatedly working for this project. One architect, two to three developers, two testers, one scheduler or coordinator or slash we can say scrum master. So we talked about all these things, right? We talked about who is a project team composition, what's the project team composition look like, project scope and everything, right? So let's talk about how project scope is deciding by who people. The people who is known for a stakeholders. So what is stakeholders? In a very lame language, what do you understand by stakeholders? So stakeholders is the people who has the ownership of the project. The people who is managing the project, the people who has money to sponsor the project, time sponsor the project, and people sponsor the project. So those are the people who has some sort of participation in this project. So they have ownership rather than owning a single person owning the entire thing. Bunch of people are owning the project who has, that might be a creator person, business person, that might be a project manager, anybody. So most of those people who has directly involvement of project direction, so they are going to decide the scope of the project directly. And whenever it will going to change during the at the project runtime, they are the person who will going to decide that let's change the scope, right? Yesterday we talked about it, taking an example of Tesla. So suppose Tesla is building a model and it has a 300 miles of range, and some of the competitor comes with a 400 miles of range. So then all the program developer, program manager, and everybody think that this is bullshit, man. We cannot do this. We have to increase our range, otherwise, we will not going to compete. It would be failure. So they cannot accept the failure. If project is ready for the market and if it fails, they will going to lose all of their money because it is not compete with the market, right? So those people who has the ownership, that is called stakeholders. So stake in a very simple language, is stakeholder is anyone who is interested in the project, has a stake in the project, or anyone who is interested may be positively or negatively affected by the project or product. So in a very very simpler form, and why it is necessary for a BA to understand stakeholders, because BA has to go through and chase those people to make all the documentation, scope documentation, project documentation, timeline documentation, everything. Correct? So, because of that, we have to understand who is the stakeholders in this project. Whenever you join the project, that is the first step you have to take. Learn about the project stakeholders. So, in a very general, project manager is a one of the stakeholder. Customer or user, the people who will going to use that product, that is also a stakeholder. And somebody, all the user is not present there, so somebody who is representing the customer. So most of the time, if we talk about Tesla has some sort of marketing team or some sort of product team. They are representing the customer, and they only think about as a customer point of view, that what can be done and what can't be done. If somebody say let's have a normal seat, they say no, we need a comfortable seat. We need a seat with lumbar support. So those people, I'm just giving you the example. The third one is project team members. All the project team members are as equal stakeholders of anyone, including you. BA person is also a stakeholder. Sponsor, the people with money. Who is the stakeholder? Obviously, without money you cannot do anything in this world, entire world. Internal and external influencers. So influencer is the people who is going to drive the decision making process uh, on their positive or negative impact. Project management office. So project management office might have some assistant project manager, some some other staff associated with that, manager staff. So those are the people. So before we go with identify stakeholders, little bit of involving stakeholders in the system design increase the likelihood of the system will be accepted by used by the business. So each and every step as a BA you will going to take include stakeholders in it, or whatever the designing session happen, mocking session happen, if you are able to manage all the stakeholders in those meetings, it will going to increase the likelihood of the project. Otherwise people don't like surprises. People never ever like surprises, like we have designed this is like this. So before it will go live, there should be each and every project stakeholders has to agreed on that. If they are not happy, then the project will go into sink or whatever, it might happen to it, but they don't like it. So how you identify these are earlier we saw that what is the normal stakeholders look like, that is the lucky guess. But you have to identify, right? When you join the project, you have to identify the attitude, the action of stakeholder can be significant effect on the performance and outcome of the project and must be managed. This is primarily the responsibility of the project manager. Although the BA person shared the responsibility with the project manager, you will spend most of your time with the business stakeholders to elicit their requirements. So, what we understand the performance and outcome of the project must be managed. You have to manage the stakeholders because it will going to impact on the project positively and negatively. And since all responsibility is project manager, but also BA, as a BA, you are sharing that responsibility with project manager. So you have to work side by side, elicit all the requirements from all the stakeholders, understand their point of debate, that what whenever they are arguing about or any talk about any stuff, why it is necessary. Because if somebody is representing customer, he is less heard or less value or something like that, that is not right. Every stakeholder is equal, everybody has a good point to tell. If it is feasible, if it is doable, you have to see as a person, as a BA, outside of the box, whether it's possible, is it doable or not doable, whether the budget is allowing, time is allowing, we are able to manage it, technology is also allowing, then we definitely do it. That approach you have to take as a business analyst to see and achieve all the requirements from all stakeholders. So identify. So there are potential stakeholders you can identify. Regulatory bodies is the people who is regulate the process. Most of the time, management people. wherever you are working, those are also the stakeholders. Business SME. SME, I told you earlier. What is the meaning of SME? Very good, very good. So business SME are the people who has a subject matter expert. So they know the business side. They don't know technology. They don't know nothing about it. They know the business. Oh, if we do this, this is a really good business. If we are able to manage more than 400 miles in the vehicle, we are golden. We are able to win the race before it was going to start. Right. So those people, client sponsor. So client is the people who will going to use that, or who is the people who sponsor that particular project. End user sometimes are represented directly. Sometimes there is a person who is representing end users. If we talk about Google cannot ask everybody end user to come in a meeting of a stakeholders. There is a person who there might be a department entirely. They take all the resources and find out what is user needed or what they want, and then they will going to send a representative as a end user representative, right? Business requirements owner. So so people who is owning that particular thing, and who knows the requirement, what requirement we require as a business. And approvers means people who approve the project. So upper management people, basically. You need to know who is approving your document to make sure to capture their requirement. Sometimes you elicit the owners, the requirements, and the approvers do not approve BRD because they were not involved in the elicitation process. So sometimes what happen, you provide your documentation for the approval, requirement documentation or something like that. But they won't approve. Some people they won't approve because you didn't, uh, you know, before before you provide the documentation, you have to do a meeting. Talk with the people, interview with the people, and elicit all the necessary requirement and all the necessary question you have to ask. So if you are not able to do that, they will not going to approve 100%. So you have to identify all the people and then talk. So to identify the people. So let's say today is what, 23rd, right? So today is 23rd. This is your first day in the project. So how do you how do you recognize who are the stakeholders and start collecting all their details and everything, so you can start scheduling with interview with them and start talking with them, right? So there are some certain steps in a BA we will going to follow this. So the first, we will going to see one by one. So yes, there is the second one. I didn't write it. Maybe I lost one slide. Shit. Okay, never mind. I will tell you. You can note it down. That is very important, by the way. So, how do you recognize all the stakeholders? Right. That is the real question. So, whenever you join the project, first thing you will going to do is use the initial list of stakeholders from the project character. So whenever you will going to join, somebody will going to give these are the stakeholders, or you will going to get all the nobody will going to tell these are the stakeholders, but these are the member of the team or something. So you have to identify from the designation that who are the what's their role in the project. Based on that, the people, the body who is a deciding factor, you will know that these are the people. I would say that these are the people who is has the authority to impact the project in positive or negative direction, or provide any sort of direction of the project. So initial list is necessary. So whenever you get that, keep it aside, keep it safe, and start digging on that. The second is use any of contracts related to the project as a starting point. So whatever the contracts you are going to get, all the documentation, just see through it, just read about it. All the documentation is necessary before you go and talk with the people to identify the stakeholders. Records from the past project, lesson learned. So whatever the if you talk about um, if we talk about the same company you are working, right, and your project is changing from one project to another project. So most of the time subject matter expert would be the same people, because who has expertise in on certain things, those people will not going to change their position. Those are the people would be the same persons. So whenever you are talking about the stakeholders, those people would be steady, those people would be same. If we talk about the business expert, right, of a car, if you are changing one project from Tesla to another project, so SME people would be same. So that is always, because you cannot buy experience, you have to earn it. So you have to learn from your past. That's what it is. Reach out to the project manager and ask directly, whom should I talk, and whom should I invite in any of the meeting. So direct contact is always preferable and always encourage. You're supposed to talk directly with project manager, talk about whatever is happening and what's going on. If you are arranging a meeting, whom to invite, what to say, those kind of stuff. What to say is not in it, but whom to invite is necessary. So that's how you identify it. Now that you have the list of stakeholder, it may be too high level list, or outdated probably. Right now you illustrated from the list whatever is existed, and then talk with the people, talk with the project manager. You have learned from your past project, SME people would be same, and those kind of stuff. Then you have created one list. So before you reach them, you have to make sure that is a correct list or not. So before you go with that, check in the system whether those person are working still or not. Sometimes what happens, some people are changing their job, those people are not working with it. So just double check before you approach somebody. That is the thing. So this is a quick tip how you will going to identify the stakeholders. Do you have any question so far? So we are at the end of it, managing stakeholders' expectations. This is the last topic for today. So everybody has some expectation. If we talk about a smaller baby, small baby, like very, very young, he or she has expectation as well to feed him or feed her at a regular time. Taking a nap, everybody will going to take care, give her or him bath, clean her whenever it gets dirty, right? So those kind of expectation with a smaller mindset. So these are the very higher management people. So they have obviously expectation for each and everything, and especially as a BA, that is your responsibility. That whatever the expectation is expected from the stakeholder, it has to be satisfied, and most of the time it is related to the project, the performance of the project, the quality of the project, the quality level of the project, the timeline, the budget, and everything. So that is your job to make sure that it will not going to exceed, or it will not going to become whatever they are expecting. It is less than whatever they are expecting. So managing stakeholders expectation is a one major factor that you will make, and you or stand out from the rest of the crowd. So because you are managing, you will become the person who will be stand out of the crowd. So people, the entire team, you will be a unique person who is going to manage those things. Take stakeholders could be your boss, the project manager, your own team members. So everybody considered as a stakeholder, senior management in the organization, business SME. So everybody. So elicit the requirement. That is your part of the job, and we will going to follow how you can manage the expectation from the stakeholders. First of all, by communicating, listening whatever they are saying, creating a very presentable presentation, documentation, those kind of things are included. But the first thing which is not included in the book or in this presentation would be humble, be polite, talk respect with everybody. Never ever ever shout or raise your voice to anybody, even though you're if you are talking with not your boss but the team member of the project. Always listen, because as a business analyst, your job is to listen the people, understand what their point is related to the business, that particular project. So that is the thing. So keep in mind, keep in your notes as well. That is a very worthy thought process. So let's go one by one. Building a trust. You you do not have to say this thing, but build a trust is doing rather than saying, right? So you have to build a trust between your stakeholders and yourself. So you have to move in a certain way, do work in a certain way, so everybody stakeholders are satisfied, and you can build a trust. So without whatever they are saying, before they are saying, you can understand. Resolving conflict. So sometimes what happened during the meeting, two stakeholder collide because they have a different sets of interests. So you are the person who have to resolve those conflict and understand each and everybody's respected thought process, and satisfied their thought processes and their agenda, and resolve the conflict, and they have to set on the some common ground. So that is the thing. Active listening. You have to listen very very carefully. Never ever neglect, or I don't want to listen, I don't want to hear. Something like that is a very bad manner, and it will going to not beneficiary for you and or your product. Walking them through what will occur to make sure that do not have the unrealistic expectations. So walking them through is whenever you are walking and talking with the people, talk with the stakeholders, understand their expectation. Whatever they are saying, sometimes they are saying that I need a leather seats, but we don't have budget of leather seats for the Tesla car. So unrealistic expectation will going to not good for the project, for the stakeholders as well. So you have to set the record state. We don't have the, because everybody is limited with all the resources, money, and time. So you have to tell stakeholders that we don't have a capacity, we cannot do. So you have to make them understand, talk with them. It is not necessary you always talk during the meeting time, after the meeting time, whenever you are walking through the lobby or something, you can talk with them. It is always to make a good relationship and communicate with each other. That is a good business analyst, skill set. Management skill such as presentation skill, negotiation skill, public speaking, which is very, very essential for the business analyst. You have to talk with the people. This is how you're going to make living out of it. You will going to talk with the people, you will going to ask question to the people, negotiate with them, and obviously you have to present in front of a lot of people within a team member, especially. Avoiding communication blockers such as language barrier. If there is a language barrier, you are talking with a cross country in a Europe there where some other language other than English is dominant. So you have to break that barrier. Right now we are living in an era of technology, so we do have a tool. So find those tools, communicate with them effectively. Nobody will going to tell you that use this tool or that tool. You have to do on your own research. Culture, there are some culture differences as well. In some certain cultures something is impolite. If we talk about some Japanese culture, they have very high respected manners. So we, whenever you are talking with those kind of people, cross cultural people, you have to make sure that you don't offend it in your gesture or anything with anybody. Making a negative statement is not a good advice for anybody, for BA especially. Noisy surrounding is not especially a good idea during the meetings and all. So you have to be quiet area, talk with the people whenever you are doing, and most of the time you will be working from your home, so it has to be quiet. Conflict always occur because of the lack of communication. So communication is key to any of the success. So you have to talk and communicate with the people. Do you understand?